Welcome to Spiritual Happy Hour. Woohoo!
Also known as shh. Although I think that's really
Well, it depends on how you spell shh or s. Anyway.
We're getting distracted.
Yes, we are. Welcome to Spiritual Happy Hour. We do this, a few times a month. And we are happy to have you here. It is so wonderful to see you. We actually have a studio audience, a live studio audience right here in the studio with us. We are so excited. Yay!
Yay! And I'm going to tell a story about one of them.
I cannot wait. Just in case you didn't know, the Spiritual Happy Hour, also known as Shh, is loosely based on A Course in Miracles. It's based on the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And we also like Pam Grout, A Course in Miracles experiment.
And we like Marianne Williamson, and sometimes we even quote Adironnda.
And sometimes we do lots of things. We just want to thank the master Rando Luna for the music that he just played. The world, the universe, the planet has never heard that music before now. And he'll be playing again later, and then at the end. And then later on, we'll have a message from Adironnda and the Council of Light. If you don't know who Adironnda and the Council of Light is, Google them. Adironnda.
So, Marilyn.
Yes, Joy.
Nothing I see in this room means anything, right?
Right.
I've given everything in this room all the meaning it has for me.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
these thoughts that I think, I'm not upset for what I really think I am, right?
Right.
But even when I can't remember any of this, right? That all applies.
Yes. That all applies.
Those are the first 5 lessons in A Course in Miracles.
Don't you love that?
Isn't that easy?
Yes.
Those are the basics. There's a saying I heard somewhere early on in my own awakening journey, and it goes like this. The issue is not the issue. It's that you think it's the issue. That is the issue. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but it's my own process of learning and growth. I'll read or I'll see or I'll hear something somewhere, and I take it in and I ponder it. And at that moment, it means one thing to me. And then somewhere along the line, could be even years later, all of a sudden I go, oh, I get it, and actually feel an embodiment of that learning. And then it's like it goes whoosk into my body, and it's beyond the thinking about it, and it becomes a part of me. And I feel like this statement, the issue is not the issue, it's that you think it's the issue, that's the issue, is one of these learnings. And it occurred to me recently that this is actually what A Course in Miracles is trying to teach us. You could just stick with lesson 1 through 5. The Course is actually setting us up to think an entirely different way about our issues. And that's basically what it means to be enlightened. And the Course says this is the definition of a miracle. It's not the guru who calls herself a guru. It's not necessarily the person who wrote the book on enlightenment. It's you and me. In fact, if you look really closely at the word guru, G-U-R-U, and how it is spelled, you can see it's actually an acronym for G-U-R-U. It's a person standing in the truth of herself. But what does that actually mean, to stand in the truth of yourself? Those are the things that make me go, what? I don't get it. I remember how it was that the first time I even heard about A Course in Miracles, I have these 2 very dear friends. In fact, one of them is here in the studio with us today. Is it okay if I use your name, Lainey? She showed up in my life during my awakening in the very early days. Incredibly wise woman, a guru. Only these 2 women would never give themselves that title. And I would be just hanging out with them, And all of a sudden, I'd be playing the victim, telling the woe story. Woe is me. You know what I'm talking about, this a person did this thing to me story. And the first time I ever even heard about A Course in Miracles, this friend of mine, Lainey, was listening to my woe story, and she said, well, according to A Course in Miracles, that's a really good creation that you just made up. That I made up? I didn't make this up. This person did this thing to me. And my friend, being the enlightened one, at least in that moment, right? We all have our own moments of enlightenment. She just smiled. Well, fast forward, and over the course of a couple of years, these two friends would always be quoting ACIM or A Course in Miracles to me. And if I had an issue or a woe story, they always seemed to have an answer, and it came from the Course. So one day after Christmas, I had a $10 gift certificate that somebody had given me for Barnes & Noble, the booksellers, and I headed over there to the store to see if I could find a book, any book, a spiritual book, because I was reading about, at that time, a book a week. I was literally just devouring every spiritual book I could get my hands on. I wanted to know it all. I had piles of books, literally like that high, sitting next to my desk and sitting next to my bed, and I was reading all of them. In fact, my mom, who was very curious about this new shift in me, she loved to come and read my books because, I write all over my books and I underline everything I want to remember, and she found it was just faster to read my underlines. And my mom, since she's not really a reader, she could get the gist of the book by looking at what I marked up on the book. Anyway, so I'm in Barnes & Noble, and I'm looking through the bookshelf for a spiritual book, and I see this 2-inch thick blue book, literally looks like a textbook, like for college or something serious. And I pick it up and I think, this is the book my two friends quote to me every time I have an issue. This is A Course in Miracles. And I start thumbing through it, and I turn it over and I read the back, and I open up a page towards the front, and it reads, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. What? What? I think to myself, what does that even mean? At this point, I'm not feeling like this is good reading, but I'm considering it because these two enlightened friends of mine are always quoting it. So next I turn to the introduction, and it reads, this is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Once again, my ego starts talking to me. Only back then, I didn't realize it was my ego. I thought that was the truth of me, the real me. And the truth of me, that real me that all the enlightened people talk about, and the truth of me says, A Course in Miracles is a required course by who? Now, I'm a little skeptical about the book at this time, and because I'm holding this big, thick book with tiny type, and it is telling me that it's a required course. What, do I get a certificate? Does it make me a facilitator if I take it? I'm just questioning the whole thing. And then I see the price, and it says $48. Yikes. Really? Whatever. So I put the book back on the shelf, and I head to the front of the store. And if you've ever been in Barnes & Noble bookstore, you've probably seen that right in the entrance, right when you walk in the door, they usually have these big flat tables covered in books. And the very front table has everything that's new, and then there are a few tables right behind there that are the severely discounted books. So as I'm heading out of the store towards the front door, walking past the severely discounted book table, one of the books falls off the table and hits me on the foot. And I look down, and guess what? It's the blue ACIM book, and it's marked $9.99. Don't you just love it for my $10 gift certificate, right? So I pick it up. And this is what happens when Spirit is trying to get your attention. They will do whatever it takes to guide you, even if you're not really getting it, if you know what I mean. So I did end up buying the book, and while it would take me another couple of years, yes, years, to get through it, I wasn't really getting it. I was reading it, but I wasn't really getting it. I was just trying so hard to understand. And then one week, Marilyn and I went on a motorhome retreat with these same two friends. It was really fun. But the cool thing was it allowed us, the four of us, to hang out in the mornings, having our coffee together, telling all kinds of stories, sharing our woes, laughing and learning. And once again, these two friends were quoting A Course in Miracles. Well, they'd say, according to A Course in Miracles, or the Course says, as they usually called it, it says something profoundly enlightening would come out of their mouth. Mostly, I really don't understand what they said, but I really loved these two people, so I listened. And they seemed to be much more enlightened than me and to have a much better grasp on peace and happiness. And I really wanted that. I wanted that more than anything else. And they too quoted, "This is a required course." They said, "Only the time you take is voluntary, due to free will," right? And of course, I'm paraphrasing it. They said, "Only the time you take is voluntary." I kind of interrupted them and I told them, I just don't get that book. I mean, I've read it and sometimes I feel like I'm actually falling asleep on the page as I'm reading it. I'm trying so hard to read it. And they both just smiled at me. It was like they had a secret, but I had to figure it out for myself. They empathized with me, and they told me that it took them years to understand the Course, and it still brings new meaning to their lives, even though they had been doing the Course for decades. Whoa, I thought, decades? How many times would I need to read this book to actually get it? It took me a year just to get through the workbook the first time. Yep, they said, and guess what? Decades later, they still do a lesson in the workbook or open it up to a page in the Course to start their day. The thing I learned was that the Course wasn't just a book you read. It's a way of practice. It's a daily practice, sort of like Buddhism. And the words are so poetic that they first make your mind kind of question everything. And it's in that questioning process that you really learn and you start to see your life take a different shape, one of peace. Because again, in that introduction, that very first page of the text, it says, "This course does not aim at the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught." Like, what does that mean, right? It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. You see, the issue is not the issue. It's that you think it's the issue. That's the issue. And the operative word in that favorite statement of mine is think. I'm now years into the Course, literally on my 4th time through it, pretty much every morning for a minimum of 5 minutes, and for me, ideally, reading and meditating for 30 minutes. And when I mention to people that I do the Course, they will often say, "Oh yeah, I read that." And then I think back to my first year with the Course, that first time through. I didn't understand a thing that I was reading. And I learned it's not a read-through. It's a daily practice, and it really is a required course. And as Marianne Williamson always says, it's appropriately named A Course in Miracles because it's not the course. There are many paths to enlightenment. There are many paths to peace. It's just one of them. And ACIM is just one that really speaks to me because I had these two dear friends who I truly loved, constantly quoting that darn thing every time I tried to share one of my stories of woe, also known as issues. So why do you think it works for so many people? Why do you think so many people find peace in its passages? It's because it goes back to the basics of our thinking. everything we think we know, everything that we believe to be true is actually, according to ACIM and according to quantum physics, is backwards. It's wrong side up. Our culture just actually feeds us a bunch of, as Adironnda likes to say, bullshit. It tells us to protect ourselves and that there's only so much to go around, and it gets us to believe that time and space is true. And then we go through life with a giant chip on our shoulder, and the next thing we know, we are even a victim of our own health, assuming no responsibility for anything that happens, as if life is happening to us. Yet the truth is, as ACIM teaches us, and you learn as you do the course, that life is actually happening for us. The course says it's actually pretty simple. We've just developed a bunch of bad habits. If we want to change the course of our life, we just change our thinking. And that's why I go through the course every morning. I'm retraining my mind from what society has taught me. I'm firing the negative committee in my head that if I allow it to have control, it won't stop blah, blah, blahing. So Pam Grout tells a story about a friend whose mother was Chinese. She did not speak a word of English, but she was visiting the U.S. from China. And she loved to walk around her daughter's neighborhood. And she was just naturally a very friendly, positive person. And she would wave and she would smile to everybody she encountered. And because of her friendliness, people would always come up to her and they'd try to strike up a conversation. But remember, she doesn't speak any English. Her mom would just smile, and no matter what the other person said, she would just say the few words that she knew in English. She would say, I love you, good night. I'm guessing it was the few words that she had learned from her grandchildren, right? Maybe when they called from a far distance away and she signed off on the telephone. I think it would be great for all of us to be like this beautiful Chinese woman, no matter what is running through our mind, no matter what our ego decides to glom onto, no matter what someone else says to us. We just smile and wave and say, I love you, good night. And that, my friends, is what the first 5 lessons of the course is all about. I made it super easy for you. Number 1, the issue is not the issue. In other words, nothing is as it appears. Number 2, download James Brown's song, I Feel Good, because get that into the cells of your body. So those times that you think the issue is the issue, just sing this song for a few rounds before responding. I'll bet it shifts things. And number 3, thinking the issue is the problem, that's the chip on your shoulder. That's when you've chosen to become the victim. And as Adironnda says, stop it. And nearly instant peace, when you learn to do that, happens. You just let it go. And number 4 and number 5, let's take that specific issue for a moment. The one you think is the issue. For me, it happened decades ago. I chose to hang on to it for decades. And then one day, after being so sick and tired of being angry and resentful, I chose to forgive. And that forgiveness was like knocking the chip right off of my shoulder. And it's all about choosing to see the issue in another way. In fact, ACIM says this is the definition of a miracle, having a different perspective. If that issue that I had never happened, I may never have ended up doing this. I may never have ended up doing what I do today, traveling the world, working from home in my PJs, building an amazing team to help spread the word of spirit in so many ways to hundreds of thousands of people so that they can hear these messages and hopefully experience the same kind of awakening by realizing others are going through the same thing. And they have gone through the same thing and still found peace. Heck, I even found the love of my life. Those first 5 lessons of the Course are such a good reminder that nothing is as it appears on the surface, and that I am incapable of accurately judging anything because of all of the blah, blah, blahs. The key is when you're up to your eyeballs in the issues, remembering all of this, right? And if you can't remember all of this, just remember the Chinese woman in America who didn't speak any English. Smile and say, I love you, good night, regardless of what time it is. Before we say, I love you, good night, the Master Rando Luna has a song for you. We're going to take a quick break. And then let's see what Adironnda has to say about the issue is not the issue. It's that you think it's the issue. That's the issue.
So it is good day to you, and good day to you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and good day to you. We have a whole crowd here today, and a very squeaky chair we see. You may not be able to hear that squeaky chair, and the vessel Marilyn says, don't hold the microphone there. So we are not going to. And as you understand, the squeaky chair is not the issue, because the issue is the fact that you cannot hear the squeaky chair unless we hold the microphone there, and the fact that you are just making that all up anyway, and it's not real, because it's not really a squeaky chair. It's just an illusion that the chair squeaks, because when the chair squeaks, it's the illusion, and the issue is not the illusion, because it didn't squeak last time, and it was a little oily, and it needs a little more oily on this side, and then we can go through. But that's not really the issue either. Did you get that? Did you follow that? Did we do that all right? As you know and as you understand, every time you think that something is going on, it is not real, because you're making it all up anyway. And every time you say to yourself, oh, I know that, I don't have to pay attention. Well, you don't know that, and that is exactly what you need to pay attention to, because what you really pay attention to is what you know and what you don't know. You really need to know and what you don't know, and then you know it, and when you know that, the square cheeks, the chair squeaks, And with that energy, it is about the acknowledgement that you are truly creating every moment in your life. You are the energy and the frequency of divine love. And as you are that frequency, then there can be no mistakes. There can be no areas of disorder. There are only areas that you feel are disorderly, only areas that you feel are a bit chaotic. But as you look into them, and as you see, well, when was the last time you felt that way? And when was the first time you felt that way? And blah, blah, blah. That is all it is. It's just blah, blah. It's the story that you're telling yourself. The creative aspect of you created humans here today and rearranged their entire schedule, rearranged their entire life just to be here for you. And when you are here, that energy becomes what is happening now. Not the issue, but the energy of presence. Because the energy of presence has no issue. The energy of presence is just now, here. And that is the key. That is the key to being and living the miracles that you are involved in. Every single moment, every single minute, every single second is a miracle. That is why the course in miracles, a course in miracles, is required. Whether you do it now or whether you do it later, it is required to live the life enlightened. For you see, when you are attributing all the things that are happening in your life, like paying $75 to overnight a thing that you left there, well, how wonderful that there's that option, huh? How wonderful that that energy is even a possibility. And how amazing is it that the energy that is coming in is creating that right here, right now. And you can look at anything, and you can turn on your BS detector, and you can say that this is just your belief system, this is just another part of bullshit that you are telling yourself. But it is not reality. Because nothing that you see means anything except the meaning that you give it. And if you want to give it a whole story that you're telling yourself and get all up in arms, go right ahead. We will sit back and cross the vessel Marilyn's legs and allow you to tell that story. Go right ahead right now. How does that feel? You think, are they stopping forever? What are they doing? Huh? We're allowing you that if you wish to tell those old stories, you can. And then after you do, we want you to listen to our voice in your head, because we are multidimensional and we can go everywhere, to just say, stop it. What you are feeling right here, right now, in this upset moment that you may be experiencing is not real. The only meaning it has is what the meaning that you had when it very first happened, maybe last year or a year before, or a year before that, or a year before that. Or 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. Is there really any difference? No. Instead, think of the energy that you are indeed desiring to create. Yippee! I have $75 to overnight something to me. Celebrate that. Exactly. Yippee! We get to be done early so we can go play more. Huh? Yippee! Celebrate every moment. Yippee! You get to hear the master Rando Luna play again. Yippee! Your high heel that you were wearing broke. Yippee! You get to go get a new pair of shoes. You see, something wonderful is happening all the time. All the time. And it may seem a bit wondrous and awe-filled, or it may seem like a little bit of a hassle. But if you go into the energy of how much of a hassle it could be, then that hassle gets bigger. And you're making it up anyway, so if you're going to make it up, you might as well make up something better than that hassle. Yes? You see, the energy as it is coming through is coming through exactly as you are choosing to create it. The only meaning anything has, the only meaning everything has, is the meaning that you give it. Now think about that during this month. What meaning do you give things, huh? How important is it for you to have this or have that, when ultimately, does your life depend on it? Does your happiness depend on it? Does your joyousness depend on it? And then you can ask yourself, is that really true? Is that really true? No. You are dependent upon you. You are love. That is all. In the olden days, people used to, that was 2 years ago, people used to say, well, there's only two things, love and fear. Yes, you all remember that? That is not true. There's only one thing, love. And then it becomes the absence of love. So there's just love. Focus on that. Know that. Be that. Feel that. And always remember, I love you. I love you. Maybe we should say, we love you. We love you. Good night. And namaste.